Late one evening, William Pritchard, an eminent scientist known for his groundbreaking work in space research, reclined in his luxury villa located within a high-security community designed for interstellar scientists. As he scrolled through his messages, his gaze stopped on an unexpected notification. It was from Commander Zopi, an alien commander with whom William had collaborated on various intergalactic projects. William and Zopi had developed a deep friendship over time, built on mutual respect and a shared curiosity for the unknown. Eager to see what his old friend wanted, William opened the message. To his surprise, Commander Zopi informed him that he had arranged for an assistant to stay with him, a young alien woman who would act as a temporary aide, taking care of William's daily chores and household needs. Though William had never asked for such an arrangement, he understood Zopi's intention. William's demanding schedule had prevented him from taking care of his home and even his personal life. In the message, Zopi explained that the assistant, named Lodina, would stay for 1 week, completing household tasks and assisting in any way William required. If he found her help valuable, Zopi hinted that William could make a permanent arrangement. Surprised but intrigued, William agreed. While the idea of an alien assistant wasn't something he had imagined, the thought of an extra pair of hands was welcome. Zopi assured him that Lodina would arrive outside his villa at the end of William's workday. William's night ended with a growing curiosity about his unusual guest. The next morning, William awoke feeling an unusual energy. He showered, applied his favorite cologne, and chose his best attire, though he quickly dismissed his enthusiasm as mere curiosity. He was eager to meet Lodina and imagined what she might look like, though he told himself not to expect anything beyond a professional assistant. As the day passed, William's mind kept returning to the evening's anticipated encounter, despite his attempts to stay focused on work. Finally, as evening approached, William drove home with a nervous excitement he hadn't felt in years. Pulling up in front of his villa, he noticed a tall, elegant figure waiting by the gate. Her form was striking. She wore a tailored, flowing dress that clung gracefully to her slender figure, and her skin shimmered subtly in the fading light. She exuded a beauty that took him by surprise, her features fine and almost ethereal, yet with an air of confidence and purpose. As he stepped out of his car, the woman turned to him and spoke in a calm, melodic voice. "Are you William Pritchard?" "Yes, that's me," he replied, caught off guard by her poise and grace. "Commander Zopi sent me," she said, offering a polite smile. "I am Lodina, and I'm here to assist you. It's a pleasure to meet you." William collected himself and welcomed her, leading her into the villa as he gave her a brief tour of the home. Lodina observed her surroundings with focused curiosity, absorbing every detail of her new environment. She asked a few questions about specific household items, genuinely fascinated by human living spaces. William, meanwhile, found her demeanor both professional and endearing, feeling oddly captivated by her presence. After a tiring day, he informed her that he was going to shower and retired to the bathroom. Yet when he returned to his bedroom, he found Lodina lying on his bed, having mistakenly assumed it was her designated sleeping space. Both of them paused in embarrassment, with Lodina quickly apologizing as she realized her error. She left the room, clearly flustered, and William chuckled to himself, touched by her innocence. The following morning, William set off to work as usual, leaving Lodina with instructions on basic tasks. Though he initially wondered if she would handle the tasks to his satisfaction, he returned that evening to find his home immaculate. The floors gleamed, surfaces were spotless, and everything seemed to radiate a comforting sense of order. Genuinely impressed, he expressed his gratitude by placing a quick, friendly kiss on her cheek. Lodina's response was one of quiet delight, her face lighting up at the gesture. As the week progressed, William found himself increasingly charmed by Lodina's diligent care and attention to detail. She had an earnest desire to please, going above and beyond to anticipate his needs. In return, he began to show her small gestures of appreciation, a few words of encouragement, a light touch on her shoulder, or a shared laugh over dinner. One evening, After another long day at work, he was feeling particularly tired and asked Lodina if she could give him a quick massage. Lodina's gentle hands worked wonders on his aching muscles, her touch both firm and soothing. William felt himself melting into the comfort of her touch, and in his relaxed state, he couldn't resist sharing a bit about his past, his dreams, and his frustrations. Lodina listened intently, her empathy apparent as she offered him the rare gift of undivided attention. William realized he hadn't felt so genuinely at ease with anyone in a long time. The next evening, Lodina had just finished folding his laundry when she made a bold offer to help him with his evening routine. William, taken aback, asked her to clarify, wondering if he had misunderstood. Lodina quickly explained that she only wanted to be of assistance, and William found himself amused, yet oddly touched by her enthusiasm. He led her to the laundry room, explaining his preferences for handling delicate items, and even managed to tease her a bit, enjoying the rare laughter they shared. Gradually, their evenings together became more intimate, filled with shared stories, quiet conversations, and moments of laughter. William found himself thinking of Lodina even when they were apart, wondering what she thought of him, of his life, and of the strange companionship that had blossomed between them. The hours he spent in her presence felt like an escape from his demanding work. The simplicity of her presence, the earnestness in her voice, brought a peace he hadn't experienced in years. Each evening, Lodina would carefully complete her tasks, tidying up the rooms, preparing meals, and organizing William's study, but her attention to these tasks went beyond mere duty. She seemed genuinely curious about each object in his home, each corner of his life. She once picked up a family photograph, her fingers brushing over it with reverence, and looked at him with wide, questioning eyes. William shared with her stories about his childhood, his late parents, and his dreams for the future, feeling an ease he hadn't felt with anyone else. As the nights passed, Lodina began to express her appreciation for William's kindness and warmth. She'd catch herself gazing at him during quiet moments, watching his movements, admiring his strong presence. He approached life with a mixture of seriousness and a subtle, almost hidden humor that she found captivating. For the first time, Lodina was seeing life beyond her duties and her training, glimpsing the vastness of human experience through William's eyes. And in return, she felt an unspoken pull towards him, a connection that went beyond simple admiration or gratitude. One evening, while they were seated on the terrace, watching the stars as they flickered against the velvet night sky, Lodina broke the comfortable silence. "William," she said softly, "why do humans look at the stars so often?" Her question was so innocent, so purely curious, that William felt a sudden surge of affection. He looked at her, her eyes fixed upward, a faint smile on her face as if she were seeing the stars for the first time. Well, he replied thoughtfully, "I think we're looking for something. Hope, maybe, or purpose. Some of us even think that the stars hold answers to questions we don't yet understand." Lodina looked at him, her eyes filled with wonder. "And have you found those answers?" William smiled, feeling her words resonate deep within him. "I don't know, maybe I'm closer now than I've ever been." They sat together in a comfortable silence, both feeling the pull of a connection they couldn't ignore. Lodina leaned into him slightly, her shoulder brushing against his. The warmth of the contact sent a jolt through William, making him realize just how much he had come to care for her. He knew this feeling went far beyond appreciation. It was something more profound, a connection that defied words or reason. Over the next few days, the air between them grew thick with unspoken emotions. William found himself watching Lodina as she moved gracefully through the house, noticing the softness in her gaze when she looked at him, the way her laughter seemed to linger in the air long after she had spoken. Each time their hands brushed or their eyes met, a spark ignited between them, a feeling as thrilling as it was terrifying. One evening, as William returned from work, he found Lodina in the study, organizing his books. She looked up as he entered, her eyes lighting up at the sight of him. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the silence thick with the weight of all they had not yet said. Finally, William spoke, his voice softer than usual. Lodina, do you ever wonder about staying here, beyond your internship? The words surprised him, slipping out before he had fully formed them in his mind. Lodina's expression softened, and she stepped closer, searching his face. I have thought about it, she replied quietly. I've thought about it every day since I arrived. Their gazes locked, and before either of them could say another word, William reached out, his hand finding hers. He felt her pulse quicken beneath his fingertips, her warmth grounding him as he took a step closer. The world around them seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them standing there, together, in a quiet, unspoken promise. Suddenly self-conscious, William released her hand, clearing his throat. Let's have dinner, he said, though his voice was unsteady. Lodina nodded, her gaze lingering on him as they moved to the dining room, her smile gentle yet filled with something unspoken. The dinner that followed was unlike any other they'd shared. Though their conversation began lightly touching on William's day at work and Lodina's explorations of Earth's customs, there was an undercurrent of intensity between them. Every glance, every small gesture, felt charged. William found himself stealing looks at her, marveling at her beauty, the way her alien grace somehow harmonized so effortlessly with human expression. She had become so much more than just a guest or a temporary assistant. She was someone who had, without him realizing it, brought light and warmth back into his life. As they finished their meal, Lodina's eyes drifted toward the window, where a gentle rain had begun to patter against the glass, casting shadows across the dimly lit room. She looked at him, her voice soft. I've never seen rain quite like this before, she murmured. With a sudden impulse, William stood up and held out his hand. Come outside with me, he said, his voice filled with quiet excitement. Lodina hesitated for only a moment before placing her hand in his, and he led her out to the garden, where the rain fell softly around them. Under the shelter of the wide eaves, they stood close together, watching as drops splattered onto the leaves and ground, the earthy scent of rain filling the air. William glanced down at her, realizing how close she was, their fingers still intertwined from when they had walked outside. A silent thrill ran through him as he gently pulled her under the open sky. The rain was cool but refreshing, and he could see the surprise in her eyes as the raindrops dotted her face. She looked up, laughing as the water dampened her hair, her gaze filled with an innocent wonder. William felt himself grinning, caught up in the moment, as if he were seeing the world anew through her eyes. And then, without thinking, he reached out and brushed a raindrop from her cheek, his fingers lingering against her skin. She looked up at him, her expression softening, her laughter fading as her hand reached up to hold his. The world seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them in that quiet, rain-soaked garden. Slowly, almost as if testing the boundaries of a new reality, William leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, and filled with a tenderness neither of them had fully realized before. But as they held each other, the kiss deepened, filled with the intensity of weeks spent yearning for something unspoken, something both of them had been hesitant to admit. William wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close as the rain poured down around them, a gentle symphony that seemed to echo the rhythm of their hearts. When they finally pulled back, breathless, they stood there for a moment, simply gazing at each other. Lodina's eyes sparkled with a new light, a mixture of happiness and vulnerability. I didn't realize, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the rain. I didn't realize I could feel this way, about someone from Earth. William brushed a strand of wet hair from her face, his thumb lingering against her cheek. I didn't realize it either, he replied, his voice thick with emotion. But I know that I don't want this to end. They stood in silence, absorbing the weight of his words. Lodina smiled, a warmth radiating from her eyes as she reached up and placed a gentle hand on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. In that moment, she felt as if she were connected to something far greater than herself, to a love that transcended planets and galaxies. When they finally went back inside, both felt a renewed sense of intimacy, a quiet understanding that words couldn't capture. They dried off, changed into comfortable clothes, and sat by the fireplace, where the warmth and crackling flames wrapped around them. Lodina leaned her head on William's shoulder, her eyes drifting shut as the exhaustion of the day and the depth of her emotions lulled her into a quiet calm. William placed an arm around her, holding her close, his gaze fixed on the fire. He felt a peace he hadn't known before, a certainty that he had found something rare and precious. As Lodina drifted to sleep, he found himself wondering what the future would hold for them. The next morning, William woke up early, filled with a sense of resolve. Thoughts of Lodina had taken over his mind, pushing aside everything else. He realized that her presence had woven itself into the fabric of his life in a way he hadn't anticipated, but now couldn't imagine letting go. After making coffee, William reached out to Commander Zoppi with an uncharacteristic nervousness, trying to phrase his words in a way that would convince the powerful alien commander to allow Lodina to stay on Earth permanently. After a brief pause, Commander Zoppi responded, his voice calm but laced with curiosity. "You wish for Lodina to remain." Zoppi's tone was thoughtful, almost as if he had anticipated this request. "And what would Earth be willing to offer in return?" William Pritchard. William took a deep breath. "I understand that this is an unusual request," he began. "But I'm willing to exchange knowledge, technology, sciences, anything you might need for the benefit of your people." There was a pause on the other end as Zoppi considered his words. Finally, the commander replied, "We have valued Lodina's experience with you. Knowledge of your technology in certain areas could indeed be of use. But do you understand the commitment this would involve, William? Lodina's ties would then be to Earth, and you would bear responsibility for her integration." William's answer was immediate. "I understand, Commander. I'll make sure she has everything she needs, and she have me." Commander Zoppi was silent for a moment, as if considering something deeply. "Very well," he replied, "Lodina may stay. But remember, her well-being will be under your care, and the exchange of knowledge must be maintained. I trust you understand the magnitude of this arrangement." A swell of relief and excitement filled William. "Thank you, Commander Zoppi. I won't let you down." After they ended the call, William sat back, the weight of the commitment settling into his chest. Lodina was now truly free to be with him, and the magnitude of that reality was both thrilling and daunting. He wanted to make her feel at home in every way possible, to bridge their two worlds and create a life together that honored both of their origins. When William returned home that evening, he held a small velvet box in his pocket, something he had picked up with a plan in mind. Lodina greeted him at the door with her usual warm smile, but there was a hint of worry in her gaze, as if she sensed that something important had happened. "Lodina," he began, his voice filled with emotion. "Commander Zoppi has given his permission. You're free to stay here, with me, if that's what you want." Lodina's face lit up with joy, and she rushed into his arms. "You did that, for me." Her voice was filled with wonder. "I'd do anything for you," William said softly, holding her close. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small box, opening it to reveal a simple but beautiful ring. "Lodina," he continued, his voice barely above a whisper, "will you stay here, not just as my assistant, but as my partner, my love? Will you marry me?" Lodina's eyes filled with tears, and she placed her hand over her heart, visibly touched. I never dreamed this would be possible," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, William, 1,000 times yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, they felt a shared peace, as if the universe itself had shifted to bring them together. They spent the evening talking about their future, their plans for a life built on the unlikely but extraordinary bond they shared. In the days that followed, they settled into a routine that was entirely new yet felt completely natural. Lodina learned the nuances of Earth's customs, and William found himself opening up more than ever before, sharing not only his daily life, but his deepest dreams and fears. He showed her the beauty of his world, from city lights to peaceful forests, from the vast oceans to the quiet starry skies. Lodina, in turn, shared her own stories of the stars, of the vast galaxies she had known, and the alien landscapes that had shaped her. She explained customs that William couldn't have imagined, describing cultures and traditions that were as rich and complex as any on Earth. The exchange of their lives and worlds created a harmony between them, each revelation strengthening the bond they shared. Their life together became a blend of the familiar and the unknown. Lodina, with her alien grace and kindness, fit effortlessly into William's world, and he found himself thriving in the adventure of it all. Friends and colleagues noticed the change in him, the way he seemed lighter, more at peace. William knew it was because of Lodina, because of the love that had grown between them so naturally, defying all odds. One evening, as they sat together watching the sun set over the horizon, William took her hand, his gaze soft yet serious. "I think it's time we visited your home," he said. "I want to understand everything about you, even if it means leaving Earth for a while." Lodina's eyes widened with surprise and excitement. "You would come with me to my world?" "With you, I'd go anywhere," he replied. "I want to know your world, just as you've come to know mine." Their journey to Lodina's home planet was a new chapter, one filled with wonder and awe as William experienced the vastness of her galaxy, the beauty of her people, and the unique culture that had shaped her. There they celebrated their union and the traditions of her kind, forging a connection that would bridge their worlds forever. And when they returned to Earth, they did so as a family, with plans to share what they'd learned, to contribute to a world that was now as much Lodina's as it was William's. Their love had transformed them both, opening doors to places and experiences neither had dared to dream of before. In each other, they had found not only love but the possibility of something greater, a life that was bound not by planets or galaxies, but by the depth of their connection. And together, they would face whatever lay ahead, hand in hand, united by a love that was as infinite as the stars.